performers know that if you have 3 performances, the middle one is difficult because it's not the first and it's not the last. Having 2 performances is just perfect because the first was the premiere, and now this is the last time to do it, so we can be excited about both.
More round of applause and welcome to Joan. Thank you so very much. You maybe heard some whoops in the room. That's because I have several people who sing from Portland who sing in my Aurora chorus in Portland. Yeah, they're. So if you're wondering, who are all these people whooping? She hasn't spoken a word yet. That's just what's going on with that. I was invited by Diane Ritalik. It will be 2 years ago this past winter. She gave me a call and said, hey, I've been wanting to present a concert on Alzheimer's. There's not a lot available in the repertoire on the subject, as you might imagine. And there's this grant, and would you be interested in writing a choral orchestral work on the subject of Alzheimer's and dementia? So to be perfectly honest, what I heard first was, would you be interested in writing a choral orchestral work? And I said, yes, of course.
We had commissioned Joan to write a 30-minute work, and she got so involved in it that she just couldn't say it all in 30 minutes. It ended up being over an hour long. I knew that this was going to be a new masterpiece in choral repertory.
Not only was the proposal accepted, but it was funded to the very fullest amount. There are only 3 organizations in the entire state that received the full funding. So this was an incredible opportunity for me to grow as a musician, as a composer. And then the reality hit. Oh, I'm writing about Alzheimer's, dementia. Here's the thing, I was commissioned not only to compose a musical work, but also to create the libretto. And as a choral composer who is very much driven by language and by text, that's what inspires me the most. I felt like my hands were tied until I knew what story I was going to tell. So not having any direct contact with Alzheimer's disease myself, in other words, there's no one in my immediate family or close friends, I started researching, of course. A breakthrough moment for me was attending a rehearsal in Portland of the Sing Here Now choir.
Now we can talk on key.
Very good. Okay, it's booked and we're doing it, okay? May 9th, Saturday, 2 p.m. is our concert here at Southminster, okay? And it's the day right before Mother's Day. And it's gonna be very fun. It's gonna be fun, okay? So, moving the breath, here you go.
And it's called Sing Here Now because there's been a lot of research that the best way to care for people with dementia is to be in that moment with them, be with them where they are.
For a few of us, this is just, it was an activity to do with my friend who has Alzheimer's. Some of these people I've been singing with for 3 years now. A lot of the people in this room really sing. I mean, they've been in church choirs,
I can hear them.
done solos and stuff like that. These are talents that we all have that we could bring and use, and it's so good for us. It's good spiritually and mentally, and it's even good physically.
Oh, absolutely.
Some social situations, there's more pressure to interact. Here, it's pretty non-threatening. We have something we're doing, and we're socializing in the process.
Right. Yes, that's great. Hence all the laughter. Well, I mentioned that I also lead choirs, and I also write music. And that's kind of the primary reason why I'm here visiting with you, is because there's another choir downstate in Eugene that has asked me to write for them a pretty big piece of music, like 30 to 40 minutes long. Wow. With a full a mixed chorus, men and women together like you guys, with an orchestra.
Are you with
And-
the U of O group then? Or is that?
I'm sorry?
Are you with the music department, U of O?
No, actually, I'm local. I live here in Portland. I direct quite, I'll get back to that. I just want to, because I lose my thread pretty easily.
You're in the right place.
We're very inclusive.
If you go to my house in my study, I have a row of books about this big, long, about the science of dementia and Alzheimer's, best care for people with dementia, anthologies of poetry written by caregivers. It was quite a journey. And I think, like a lot of people, my first reaction was, oh my God, this is a horror story. How am I going to tell this story, right? I hope that if you don't know or don't have experience with Alzheimer's, that hearing this piece today will help you, again, look at it without fear and with a great deal of empathy and compassion and willingness to see the face of Alzheimer's. And this is going to be coming together like in the next month for me, because I mean I have been doing some music writing, but again for me the words come first, and I know some things I am going to set, but the whole piece has to have an arc and a flow to it. So I really am still in the process of figuring out the story I'm going to tell, and so my question to both of you is what has inspired you to be in this, to be of service, basically, and how are you inspired by those that you serve?
I want people's voices to be heard. I feel like everyone's story is important, and as community, we need to hear each other, and that's why I'm here, because I know that they feel like no one wants to hear them, or they have nothing that's worth hearing, but they do.
I dropped it. It was, I didn't expect to have Alzheimer's at this time of life. You know, and I have a wonderful spouse that takes care of me. And that is really a good thing. And we have to keep people around us. We have to keep going and keep going. And someday somebody's going to get it. But
this is why we so dearly love to come here, because we have friendship and fellowship and support one another. As the disease progresses, people are afraid of it, and you know they stop coming by. That's something that I think is the worst part of the disease altogether.
Yeah.
Okay, and just sing out, sing out, sing out. There you go. You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy when stars are burning. You'll never know, dear, how much I love you. Please don't take my sunshine away. Verse 2.
You know, you talked about the complexity of the disease and how it's not centralized like a particular kind of cancer. You know, who we are is wrapped up in this disease, our personalities,
Our whole lives.
what we've done for a living, how we see us living the rest of our lives, and this disease just puts, I just see like a blender just mixing it all up. You know, people have to redefine themselves. Caregivers are navigating. You navigating how to compose this piece is how people navigate this disease. I mean, really, it is. I hear in you this struggle to get it.
Yes.
To make sure that, and to make sure you get it right. And I think that our caregivers struggle with that. And you know, it's beautiful to see somebody like Judy who just seems to have such acceptance around it. And she's able to be in the moment and have joy and laugh.
There's a lot said about loss, you know, loss of memory, loss of cognitive ability, loss of other kinds of abilities, and so and loss of wow. Can you say anything about that? I mean, that must be really be painful.
Well, there's a lot of your friends that have been just kind of going step by step by step. And I don't feel like I'm doing that. I feel like I'm grading down instead of up.
Yeah.
There's several issues, I think, related to building friendships at this point. One is because she doesn't remember yesterday. It's hard to build on, you know, a friendship builds on previous experiences.
Sure,
well, if she can't remember previous experiences, then there's not so much to build on.
I mean, I've had friends all over the place. I've traveled all over the place and stuff.
Right.
But then there comes that time you just want to be with a friend.
Honestly, and what they were expressing, what they wanted, I think honestly, it's universal. It's what everybody wants. People want to be seen, and they want to be heard, you know? And
So I have this very vivid memory of my grandmother asking who this picture was. On top of the television, she had this photo. Everyone was saying, you know, my mother was saying, "Mom, you know who that is, you know who that is." And finally she realized it was my brother. And I remember her hitting herself in the head and crying, my grandson, how could I forget my own grandson?
This is the paper that gives the date. This is the kettle that boils the water. This is our China breakfast plate. This is the note to call my daughter. This is the note to call my daughter. This is the note to call my daughter.
I got to experience also in my life when my mother was then caring for my grandmother, and the stress that put on her, on her family. My mother was a very accomplished, very bright, gorgeous woman, and when she was struggling to take care of my grandmother, she actually lost her job. I knew that my mother never wanted to go through anything like this, and yet she also developed Alzheimer's. So then it came to me to be the caretaker. It was quite a few years after my mother died that I could even wrap my head around doing something artistic about this, but I felt like it was something that needed to be expressed artistically. And then that makes it a shared experience. I think we both felt from the very beginning that this was going to be a really big and important project.
I was playing, I can play a little bit of this for you, how the piece is going to begin.
Oh, I'd love to.
And it's beginning with an Emily Dickinson poem.
Oh, good.
And it's funny, I'd read this poem before, but like within the context of Alzheimer's, it was just like, oh my God. So I felt a cleaving in my mind as if my brain had split. I tried to match it seam by seam, but could not make them fit. The thought behind I strove to join into the thought before, but sequence raveled out of reach like balls upon a floor.
That sounds so appropriate.
It
sounds like she was writing about our project.
Yeah, I know.
Joan brings together people and feelings in a very comforting way. So I thought she would be the perfect composer. And finding out, actually, that she didn't have a direct connection to anyone with Alzheimer's or dementia actually made it more fascinating, because she had fresh eyes to explore this whole idea, to read about it, to meet with people, to not have any particular bias herself.
Welcome, Joan, and thank you so into our lives.
Thank you so very much for welcoming
so
me.
Exciting to meet you. You're a hero to me.
Oh, wonderful.
No, come on in.
All right.
Love to have you.
Great.
You're welcome. He had some big testing in 2008 that showed the serious impairment, and then he had some MRIs in 2010 that showed lots of vascular dementia. Retest again in 2013, it showed a very serious
So it's vascular
decline.
dementia. So
Yeah.
so how does that manifest in your daily lives?
She sends me off to work out in
I
hopes
keep
that I
him
don't come
so
back.
busy and alive with singing, with physical activity, with art, running him around. His life, he loves to sit back there. He has got this crazy skill and talent. This is his.
Yes.
And you don't have to look at all these.
Are these watercolors or pastel?
These are all watercolors so far,
okay.
and now he's doing pencils. But it's nuts what's happening. And so
oh wow.
I truly believe that in the Alzheimer journey, and we did the meds, we did the Aricept lookalike that's called galantamine, we did the Namenda, but I think this is what's saving his brain. I think this is what's preventing a really, really serious nosedive decline. Now, he can ask me 100 times a day, what day is it, what time is it, did I have breakfast, what are we going to do today, just short-term memory is shot through.
Yeah.
And, a lot of the frontal lobe, all of the executive function.
So decision
making, planning, lining things up, that's all gone.
She exaggerates a little bit because there's some things I don't want to do.
Well,
so I use it.
That is true. There is a big question in there, how much he's using it. But there's so much stuff going on in his brain. He made his he made his drip into a feather.
Oh.
Well, this is a famous French poster art.
Right.
You've probably seen it.
No, when I looked at it, it almost looked like an opera singer. That happens to be a.
Oh, cool.
I'll check it.
1 year.
This was started down at the what's the original? Maryland? Where's the place that I started this picture way over on the other side of town?
It's an Alzheimer's Association.
And so I love trees, so now look at that. That thing never quit either.
One of the reasons I was
I forget to quit them. This is what's funny to me. You know, I was trying to make this thing, and it showed that the lake went in the water. Well, I found it impossible. I mean, I put those in there, but they don't look like they're in the water. I guess if I put water over a little more of them.
We're supposed to work on it.
It's just art.
Over to the hop house, right? Oh, well, thank you. All right.
Is anyone out there familiar with the mini mental exam? Okay. It's an ongoing, I mean, and oftentimes people with cognitive issues they'll take this test several times to kind of ascertain, you know, how they're doing. There's a couple things in that exam that, well, this one in particular that you'll hear quite a bit. I'm going to give you 3 words. They are, Can you repeat them? Right? And I just had this idea kind of early on that this could be something to kind of hold the piece together, this 3 words idea.
I'm going to give you the names of 3 objects: shoe, tree, car. Can you repeat those 3 words?
Shoe, train. I can't remember the other one.
Okay. Then please repeat this phrase. No ifs, ands, or buts.
No ifs. No. Nothing fits.
Okay. Can you please spell the word world backward?
There's an exam called the mini mental exam, and it's the question of, I'm going to give you 3 words. That's going to be a unifying thread through the piece. I'm going to give you 3 words. I really love this. Spell world backwards. I'm going to use that. And this is the beginning of the tango, actually. I'm a very intuitive composer. I work with words. Words spark emotion. There's 16 individual, musical pieces, but there's 3 segments. The first segment I call the Cloud of Forgetting, and it really focuses more on the experience from the person with Alzheimer's, from their point of view. Not being able to connect the thought I had with the thought that I had before, and a feeling of unraveling. The biggest challenge in this project was figuring out what the heck I was going to say. How am I going to program this story? I mean, there is no one Alzheimer's story. There's no one caregiver story either. So with Alzheimer's, every person is compensating in different ways. Really, quite simply, I wanted all of the texts to be universal in that anybody who has direct contact with Alzheimer's can see themselves in that particular text. I wanted, through the course of the hour-long piece that you're going to hear, for you to feel seen and heard. Is backward, upside down, and inside out. My world down. And the offstage speaker, you have dementia.
Probably of the Alzheimer's type.
What started out as a project to write a half-hour-long choral orchestral piece on the subject of Alzheimer's dementia has become an hour-long project. And then the middle section is called Uncontainable Night, which is a beautiful metaphor. It comes from a poem by Rilke that was translated. What you're going to hear, you're not going to hear it in German. You'll hear it in English. This section, middle section, is primarily from the perspective of the care partner. And maybe you've noticed I've been saying care partner instead of caregiver. And the reason for that is because when you say caregiver, there's an assumption that the person you're caring for has nothing to give back to you. I remember very clearly a care partner saying, look, we don't have any there's no poster children for Alzheimer's. There's no Angelina Jolie, post breast cancer or mastectomy to stand up. And she says, we all die from this disease. How long ago was your mom? It's Rose, right?
Rosemary.
Was your diagnosis?
2009 was the initial diagnosis. History is my grandmother had Alzheimer's, and she started showing symptoms somewhere around age 70, and the family didn't want to see it, and so it wasn't until an event that was very dramatic, i.e. the police brought her home, that everybody really paid attention. So I started paying more attention to Mom.
Right.
And when she started having the first signs.
And what were those first signs for your mom?
A little bit of forgetfulness, but more forgetfulness followed by confusion. In other words, not being able to correct. Where you and I would forget a name or a street address and we'd go look it up, but not knowing how to solve the forgetfulness.
The procedural,
the processing.
The processing,
that's what it goes.
sure, right.
And she was married to my stepfather, who's since passed away. And history is I'm a nurse as well. So early treatment like that does bring longer functioning.
I'm wondering if you did not have a skill set do you think that you would have cared for her in your home?
If I had, didn't have any medical background,
right.
We probably still would. I mean, this was a joint decision my husband and I made. And I don't know if you want him to come over or not.
Hi, I'd love to meet you.
Yeah. It's just maybe somebody look around the corner every once in a while, make sure Mom's okay.
What is your field, Greg?
I'm an end-of-life caregiver. I work in a residential home.
Oh my goodness! So you're both very equipped then.
This is what I do 24/7 basically now.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. My grandmother in her Alzheimer's was almost like a kitten. I mean, we would sit on the floor and do puzzles and color together, and because those are the activities you move to eventually.
Right. Sure.
She was very, am I doing this okay? Am I okay?
Very loving and sweet, which was a true change from the way she was prior to that.
Exactly, yeah.
Which I hear is not an uncommon.
Yeah. Mom, unfortunately, has gone the other direction. She, for the first 2 years with us, was very angry. And there's not a whole lot of research, but I think what we were talking this morning has happened is she sort of got stuck in angry mode, and now she doesn't have the skill or the ability to get out of it. Right. So her expression of her frustration, confusion is violence. So.
I've heard there's many, like some people say there's 3 stages, there's 5 stages, there's 7 stages, and then the really most poignant thing that I read is that there's 2 stages, is that there's when the person with Alzheimer's has awareness of something being wrong, and then beyond that. Is she still in that first stage?
No, she actually is, in the last 2 weeks, has forgotten how to swallow. So you think about having something in your mouth and not knowing your airway knows you're going to choke.
Yeah, I would.
We're
But
looking at probably an end within 2 to 3 months.
if that long.
And you're hoping to keep her here at home?
She will stay here, yes. It's a commitment we made. But moments in the sun are just, that's why you go through the rest of it is,
Right.
I mean, I came home from work one day and Greg's sitting here with dinner and he's like this and what's wrong? She goes, she's back. And we had like a 30-minute conversation and it was Mom. Her humor was there, she's an incredible woman.
Right.
Yeah, there's those little pieces, and those are the pieces you live for.
Mm-hmm.
The rest, you take care of, you cry with, and then every once in a while the sun breaks from behind the clouds.
Mm-hmm.
And the sad part about it, as the disease progresses, those become smaller and smaller breaks.
Yeah.
Drink.
So dry. I think that's the hardest, is knowing that she's starting to
swallowing, yeah.
Swallow.
Whoops.
Swallow. You can hide. You can hide. You can hide.
There's the towel behind you.
There it is. Thank you.
There you go.
Good girl, Mom. Got it.
Keep going, dear.
Hey, Mom. Good job.
Hi, Rose.
Remember Diane?
My middle name is Marie. I'm Joan Marie. I've been hearing about your what an accomplished person you have been in your life. You used to fly planes? Did you really? I would be so scared if I was in a small little plane up in the air.
The garden is probably the last memory.
The gardens? You know, I loved garden. I might even have pictures of my garden.
Yeah.
Would you like to see a picture of my garden? I have a, let's see, there's some magnolia.
Mom, look at the flowers.
Pretty magnolia blossoms. And I absolutely love to go, when I'm not making music, I am in my garden all the time.
I think without exception, when a family has completed this journey, there is lightness at the end. Number one, because it's finished. And number two, because you honor the experience and you come to resolution, kind of like you are now, of what I learned.
I enjoyed meeting you. You are a lovely woman. For Joan, it was, I think, quite eye-opening to see Rosemary in the state that she was in. And it was just a brief but beautiful time to spend together. Debbie sent me a message after that visit, and she said, "You were the last ones to capture my mother's smiles." Because later on that same day, Rose had a stroke, and then she was no longer communicative, and a few days later she passed away.
There are moments when you have a choice. Fall apart or take a deep breath. Just do what needs to be done. Feel a new loneliness and a new strength. So, middle section explores care partner's perspective. And then it transitions into a section It's called I and Thou, and I borrow that phrase from philosopher Martin Buber, and what it's about relating with a person as a person, not as an it. And what's so important is to remain connected to the person, you know. So this whole last section is about, well, how is that possible when there's been so much loss? My interest was very piqued by a quote from the obituary, which was, Gary managed himself with dignity and grace and never lost his authentic self. To the end, we were able to say, he is still Gary. And I would love to hear about that, because what I've come to in terms of what this piece is going to be about is that your loved one is still there, is still present.
Well, we got together in 2000, and the diagnosis was in 2008, though probably, it was definitely visible in 2007. So we say half of our married life was without Alzheimer's and half with Alzheimer's. And but as I wrote the eulogy, I couldn't deliver it. But I commented that, truth be told, there were any number of benefits that came through Alzheimer's. We both became better people. He, for the most part, always saw the glass half full, and he just didn't let things get to him. We just seized the moment anytime that we could and took such joy in each other. And he was funny. He loved humor. There was one time, what was it? He was doing something and I was trying to focus, I was trying to focus on something, and I just said, gently, I just said, oh, you can be so annoying. And he was well into Alzheimer's, and he stopped, he looked at me, and he said, only sometimes, then I'm not doing my job. That was my guy. Oh. That was so typical of him, and you have to realize, for him to reach and say a totally coherent sentence like that that was appropriate, it's like, yeah, you're still in there, you're not fooling anybody. When you have this sort of crisis in your life, everything else just fades away. You just live in the moment. You celebrate the fun things, you ignore the bad things. I think by living in the moment, it allows you to not be weighted down by what the inevitable future for somebody with Alzheimer's is all about. And yet you also enter your mourning period sooner, and so it's a different sort of mourning, because it's joyous as some occasions could be. It might be I privately cry, or
sure.
And then towards the end of the disease, you're just praying that he can let go instead of hang on longer.
I'm going to give you 3 new words. Be here now.
Guy always knew who I was from an emotional response. He might not be able to call my name up, but he knew he had an emotional response to me. And we were able to be very close, and every now and then he was even able to articulate how sad he was that I was having to do this.
So for him it was about you. I've had a profound experience learning about Alzheimer's dementia, having conversations with many of those directly affected by it. I am humbled to take their words and their stories and to create something that speaks to what makes us human, which is connection.
Also, in measure 114, we can have a little more on the second trumpet.
And so what Shadow and Light is about is that regardless of all of the loss, that there is something to be gained, and that is a profound presence with your loved one. It is that love prevails, that love endures.
She actually sent most of the movements, and I looked at the first and the third movements, I believe, and was immediately taken and like wept through them. To be at a piece at the beginning stages of it, this piece will go on to have a life, hopefully with other performing organizations. So to be in the first performance of it, where it hasn't had a lot of different people's interpretations, is very exciting to be in the birth of the piece. So I feel really very honored to be able to do that.
When Diane started talking to me about this piece, it really kind of hit close to home, and I got kind of excited to do it, because my grandmother actually has pretty severe dementia, and my uncle and aunt live with her and take care of her.
And so it really, really spoke to people. So Joan has come in at the opportune moment for us to say, thank you, Joan.
See you all. I don't know if Diane shared with you, but when I spoke with her yesterday, you guys kind of take over the show. For me, who has been living with this music for so long and like knows everything inside and out, and you know, for me, I just so totally relaxed in those moments with you when you were singing and singing a cappella and just taking the thing home, you know. So bravo, brava, and thank you so very much for your efforts and your heart and soul and your artistry.
I know this is just so fast.
Okay.
But ditto from the choir. We actually took some time to commemorate what you gave to us, Joan. It's nothing fancy, but these are...
I'm not a fancy girl.
We knew. It's fun. Thank you. And also to commemorate what you guys were able to build together and trust us with. So thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. Let's go out and do a beautiful show.
See